the riches that come with that particular glory, right? All right, cow, okay, goats. What else comes to mind? That's actual wealth. Gold, right? You go into the scriptures, you find out that the riches of the wicked was going to flow away. Well, the gold that they have out there, or they were supposed to have out there in Fort Knox, of which they said there's no gold up in there. Okay, the gold that they were supposed to have up in there, that exists somewhere. Okay, that somebody's got that gold. Okay, the Chinese have been buying up all types of gold, right? Well, that's not just going to burn up and disappear. That's going to be transferred onto the next rulers, which is going to be who? It's going to be the children of Israel. So the children of Israel are going to have all of that gold, man. They might make gold breastplates. They might make gold, a whole room made out of gold. Okay, you know, Jake is out there. Hey, Jake, within captivity, you're building cars with spinning rims. What do you think they're going to do within the kingdom of the heaven, man? Okay, just because you got into where the meek, okay, the poor was going to inherit the kingdom, doesn't mean to say they're going to act poor. They're going to be starting, man. Okay, so continuing, it says there, and that he might make known the riches of his glory. So we're talking about actual riches now. Okay, and the verses of mercy, the elect, which he had prepared unto glory. And what does it mean when it says prepared unto glory? Saying that it was chosen from the foundations of the earth to be the elect. Continuing here, it says, even us, whom he hath called not only of the Jews, but also the Gentiles. Now that's where you get guys trying to insert the heathen up into there. So here it is, it's saying, oh, the glories of the riches that's going to come with the kingdom. Okay, fantastic, right? First, we need to establish what's going to come. What's going to be those riches? Well, the slaves. Well, hold on a minute. If you go to where you got slaves, the scripture talks about how to have people in slavery. That's one of the riches. That's one of the main riches. That's what the elite banking families. That's what they work so hard to have. The children of Israel as slaves. So we're gonna have them as slaves. The scripture says within the book of Psalms, and that their nobles was gonna be having fetters of iron upon them. That's one of the riches that's gonna come within the kingdom of heaven. But hold on a minute. When you say the Gentiles and these people try to make it to where attribute that statement of the Gentiles unto who? Unto the heathen. Well, you're gonna have heathens having other heathens in slavery, because part of the riches is that what? That you was gonna have slaves. But it ain't gonna work out like that. It's gonna be one nation having the whole world in chains. Now let's give you some historical context and let's get some understanding about why that particular statement, that particular word of Gentile is used. And then we carry on reading within the scriptures, and the whole thing is gonna make more sense. All right, so when you go into the history, okay, the biblical history, the ancient biblical history, you find out, and the prophecy, all right, you find out that the Lord set it up where the children of Israel was going to be scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. That's number one. All right, if you don't understand that, you don't understand why it says Gentiles. And I'm gonna pull out another precept also too within the book of within the book of Matthew 7:35. All right, but once you understand that the children of Israel was going to be scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, then your mind will be open up and begin to understand that these Gentiles that he was speaking about, it was not necessarily the exiles only, but also the Israelites that weren't calling themselves Jews. I suppose that's the easiest way to say it. Okay, the Israelites that was not calling themselves Jews, they was known also as Gentiles. Okay, now let's go into the history and let's go into the prophecies. Deuteronomy 28:64 says that what? Right, the Lord was going to scatter us throughout the four corners of the earth. Jeremiah 17:4 says that what? Thou shalt discontinue from thy heritage that I gave unto thee. So ultimately, the whole 12 tribes, we're talking about this period in time that we're living through right now, all the 12 tribes technically became Gentiles. If we're speaking about the specific point in time that we're living in right now. Going back onto the time when this statement was written, not only the Jews, but the Gentiles also, you had a strong body of Israelites that was still at Jerusalem, especially during the time of the Lord, and this was written a little bit after that. But prior to 70 AD, when the Israelites were attacked by Titus Vespasian, and you had the whole situation where what? The Israelites fled into the interiors of Africa, some fled into the, wherever they fled, that's where they fled, right? The point I'm making right now is that you had a stronghold of Israelites within Jerusalem that was still the descendants of the Maccabees, okay, descendants of the Maccabees, the Hasmonean dynasty, and now you had it to where you had the Herodian dynasty ruling over them. The Romans were in power, but you had a stronghold of Israelites following Israelite customs within Israel. Number one, we spoke about the diaspora of the Israelites. That happened, that was prophesied about within the book of Deuteronomy, 28th chapter, and the 64th verse. Number two, we know the history about Tiglath-Pileser III, okay, his descendants, Sargon II, Shalmaneser V, and how they took the Latin-speaking tribe, the northern tribes, okay, the Latin-speaking tribe, the northern tribe, out there into the Assyria, and they served slavery out there. Now we know through the scriptures, through the history, the book of 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, how that those Israelites that was taken out there into underneath the Assyrians, how that they had counseled with themselves, and after they counseled with themselves, they made the decision to go out there and try to serve the Lord in the new land. And we know that land is what? America. Okay. Continuing and building up the point now, right? You had a situation where Israelites were during it, because remember you had a stronghold of Israelites, right? Now you had a situation where you had Israelites that was still at Alexandria, which was in Egypt, and that's accounted about during the time of the Maccabees. So you had Israelites over there. You had a situation where during the times of the different slaves, the Babylonian enslavements, you had Israelites that had decided that they wasn't going to go back into the land of Israel. Because remember, at Babylon, it was 70 years. So imagine you got a generation of children 10 years old, right? Let's say within the whole encampment of Jerusalem, there are 500 children that are 10 years old, okay? And they all get carried away into Babylon to serve slavery. So when they turned 80, that's when they came back. So what about all the children that was born out there within Babylon, that had settled over there within Babylon? Well, the vast majority of them stayed over there, man. Okay? Some of them, not the vast majority of them, not necessarily, but you had it to where you had a stronghold of Israelites that still stayed within the land of Babylon, which was later assimilated into the Medo-Persian Empire. And you can read about the Medo-Persian Empire during the accounts of Esther or Mordecai. And they were still out there within what? They were still out there within the within Babylon, way after the so-called mass exodus of Israelites, okay, had moved back into what? They had moved back into the land of Israel. The simple point I'm making is that what? The Israelites moved around, and as a result, you had it to where you had Israelites that was from all over the place. Now let's get this account within the book of Acts, okay? Now this is Acts 2 and 5. It says, and they were dwelling at Jerusalem, Jews, devout men, out of every nation under heaven. Okay, you have to look at that particular precept critically, man. And it's saying Jews, but it's also saying out of every nation underneath the earth. What's that all about? Right? Because you can't have a Jew that's an Edomite. Okay, you can't have a Jew that's a Moabite. Jew goes back onto the name Judah. All right. And when you understand the history, you find out that the kingdom was split up between the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom was the 9 tribes. 9 tribes was taken by the Assyrians out there into captivity, later moved into Americas. The southern tribe was comprised of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, and ultimately a remnant of the other 9 tribes, but not a large multitude of them, but just a small remnant that was still dwelling at Jerusalem. So when you have a situation where it's talking about the Jews, predominantly it's talking about Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, the southern kingdom that was known collectively as Jews. All right, after the head tribe, which was Judah. All right, but out of every nation underneath the earth, well, hold on a minute, what's going on here? That was dealing with a situation where what? When you go into the scriptures, you find out, all right, it's the Israelite custom for us for the whole for Israel to come back into the land of Jerusalem. I think it's was it 2? I forget what number of times it is in a year. I want to say 5. But it's a couple of times in the year the Israelites are supposed to come back onto the land of Israel, all right, for those particular festivals. I'm supposed to know this. My apologies, my bad. Okay, so lucky, but I'm supposed to know that. But you gotta, they basically come back onto the land of Israel, okay, a handful of times within the year, all right, to observe those particular high holy days, all right. So all of the different enslavements that you had, all of the different migrations of Israelites that you had, all right, the ones that did somewhat follow the customs, they still came back onto the land of Israel. Right, and that's why the scripture says that what? Out of every nation underneath the earth, right? Right, but it was what? They was Israelites. Okay, we can all agree upon that they was Israelites. So it says, unto us even this is back within the book of Romans 9 and 24, it says, even us, whom we have not called only Jews, but Gentiles. Alright, and the Gentiles were who? Those were the ones that was out there within Alexandria and other places like where Israelites were either they had stayed during the time after the period of slavery that they was in, okay, but they still knew that they was Israelites, but they wasn't a part of the so-called fold within the land of Jerusalem, man. Because when you was a part of the fold within the land of Jerusalem, you would have had to prove your records. That's why the scripture says, make no end of endless genealogies. Because ultimately, the whole record, the thing of the record keeping, this is Yahushua, the son of this man, 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 the son of Jacob. That whole thing was gonna be lost, especially in the times that we're living in right now, where the whole 12 tribes became likened unto Gentiles, man. Right? But ultimately, if they were descendants of the children of Israel, there was no difference between them. That is to say, the scripture, to explain the scripture where it says, all right, there's no difference between Jew nor Greek, because you had Greek-speaking Israelites that was out there amidst the Romans, right, amidst the Egyptian Edomites that was ruling out there within Egypt. Amidst all of the different places that was given unto Hellenism, there was no difference between them and the Jews that was in Israel. There was all Israelites, man. They all came from the same stock. That's what that scripture was talking about, right? So let's get it from the Lord's. Was it the Lord that spoke here? No, this was the Pharisees that was speaking here on an account of the Lord. So this is the book of Matthew 7 and 35. I always get that one. Why do I always get that one? John 7 and 35. Okay, this is John 7 and 35. It says, then said the Jews amongst themselves, whither will he go that we shall not find him? Will he go on to the disperse amongst the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? Okay, now I've explained that through the history, man. Okay, you had Israelites that were scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, right? And he was going. The Lord was the departing from the face of the Jews that was in Jerusalem. So they understood that there was Israelites that was out there in the other areas of the world. They got that. So how comes people don't understand it right now, man? Right, we're not talking about the Israelites that are out there within America. That's the only. You mean you got certain camps that are teaching that, but you got certain. But we teach the full truth here at Great Millstone. That what you got Israelites that are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, man. That's just the reality of the situation. So if you had a situation where one of the apostles said, "Look, I'll be going somewhere," all right. One of the things you might think is, okay, is he going to go on to the disperse, just like how they thought when the Lord was on the scene? Is he going to go on to the disperse amongst the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? Because that was the dispersed. They were still Israelites, but it was amongst the Gentiles. So they was what? They was classified underneath the collective term of the Gentiles. The same thing of the word nation. It tells you within the book of read it just a second ago. Damn. Okay, it shows you within the book of Acts 2 and 5 that the word nation is a collective term. It says out of every nation, but it also said they was of Jewish descent, man. Going to show you that what the dispersed, when they go out there, the dispersed of Israel, when they was going out there into the different lands, they became known under whatever collective umbrella of that was given unto them. Whether it was nations, whether it was Greek, whether it was what's the other word, Gentile. That was collective terms used to be ascribed to a particular group. But when we was talking about the Jews was just the Jews. It was clear cut because they were still following the very particular customs of the Israelites, of which there was no intermarriages. Okay, there was no allowing of people to convert into the Jewish customs, because you had to prove your records to be a Jew, man. These were very strict, a strict way of living, man. But outside of that, you had it to where you had to use collective terms to describe whatever nation and whatever mixture of people that you had over there. Okay, so now we know that we're talking about the children of Israel. Let's continue within the book of Romans, the 9th chapter. So it says there, Romans 9 and 24. It says, even us, whom he hath called not only Jews but of Gentiles, as he saith in Hosea, okay, which is Hosea, I'll call them my people, which were not called my people. Right? Okay, because they say, oh, the Gentiles is gonna be talking about the heathen, because they weren't Jews, right? Well, yeah, but guess what? The Jews also wasn't called was gonna go for a period of time when they wasn't gonna be known as the Jews. Now here's the proof of that. This is the book of Hosea. The book of Hosea 1 and 9, as quoted over here. Hosea 1 and 7, it says, but I will have mercy upon the house of Judah, and I will save them by the hand of the Lord, and I will save and I will not save them by bow, nor sword, nor battle, nor by horses, nor by horsemen. So this is talking about the account when the Assyrians came up against Hezekiah. God damn, I read this, but my memory is not so great. Right? They came up against Hezekiah, and pretty much Hezekiah if it was that particular king, but basically the Assyrians came up against Judah, okay, and they took down particular strongholds, but the main city they couldn't touch it. They took down Lachish. That's where you get the Lachish release from, right? Which was the account of the Assyrians taking down the different little fortresses that you had working towards the big city. But when they got to the big city, right, through the power of the Lord, the Assyrians did not prevail. To continue in here, it says, now when she had weaned Lo-Ruhamah, she conceived and bare a son. The Most High said, call his name Lo-Ami, for ye are not my people, and the Most High shall not be a power unto you. Because ultimately the Lord turned his back not only to the Assyrians, but also to the whole entirety of the nation of Israel for a period of time. And Yahushua had to be the mediator between the people of the Most High and the Most High himself, yeah? So it says, no. Then said the Most High, call his name Lo-Ami, for ye are not my people, and I will not be your power. So they became Gentiles, right? It says, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea. Not the number of the people of the earth, but the number of the children of Israel. So we're talking about the children of Israel right now. Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it said unto you, ye are not my people, Gentiles, there it shall be said unto you, ye are the sons of the living power. Talking about the Israelites. Back within the book of Romans 9 and 25, it says, and he saith, as he saith in Hosea, now let's go up a verse, 24th, even thus, even us, whom he hath called not only Gentiles only, but also the Gentiles, as he saith in Hosea, I will call them my people, which were not called my people. So the Gentiles, which were not called his people, were who? They were Israelites that had had lost their heritage, okay, of being the Israelites, man. They had lost that thing by way of being dispersed to whatever captivity that it was dispersed unto. Whether they was had stayed up amidst the Babylonians, okay, whether they had been gone out there into the Americas, right? Basically, these became as Gentiles. That's why when we go into the book of John 7 and 35, it says what? Whither will he go? Will he go on to the dispersed amongst the Gentiles and teach the Gentiles? Because back then it was well understood that you had a large conglomerate of people, right, amidst the heathen nations that were Israelites, man. It was well understood that. But now you got it to where what? People are trying to sneaking the heathens into that number. And it don't work like that. The Most High set it up that what? After all is said and done, the Most High was going to have mercy exclusively upon the children of Israel. So we got to that the end of that within the book of Romans, the 9th chapter. Let's go into the book of Isaiah, the 14th chapter. And then I'll see how much time I got on the camera because I wanted to go into a particular article. So we're looking at, damn. It's supposed to be finished in a second. Do overtime today. Shit. Okay, so the book of Isaiah 14:1, it says, for the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined unto them, and they shall cleave unto the house of Jacob. So you had a situation where what? The Gentiles, which were Israelite foreigners, okay, was basically going to be grafted back into what? They was be grafted back into they was going to be adopted back in. Okay, that olive tree, okay, that's, I might have to get that scripture. That's a good scripture. That's a damn good scripture, right? The scripture says that what? How has that become a degenerate plant unto me? What's that dealing with, man? That's dealing with the children of Israel having. I'm not gonna get a chance to go into that particular article. It's fine, okay. But you had a situation where what? The Israelites, they was near and dear unto the Most High, but they became a degenerate plant unto the Lord, right? And the Lord did away with them. But it's still that wild olive tree that was going to be grafted back in onto the non-wild olive tree. They're going to be adopted back in. You can't graft an apple onto an olive branch. It don't work like that. That's not how grafting works. But you can graft different variations of the same species, man. All right, just like how you can have, I mean, you get what I'm trying to say. I don't have to make another example, another bad example.
What?
Right? Let's put degenerate plant. And I should pull up the scripture that I want. It's Jeremiah 2. Jeremiah 2:21 says, you okay?